Okay, this is my part two of my whole argument of Namekians not being black and more being Native American than black. And if anything, part two was more of my passion slash heart coming out and just venting why my argument is valid or why I think my argument is pretty damn valid and strong. If I had to make a reference to another favorite anime of mine, which is One Piece, this race called the Fisherman race. I would like to call them the Fisherman race or the Mer people. I would like to say they're more black than the Namekian race from Dragon Ball Z. Now, this is my reasoning why. It's because of the storytelling to their background of their history is more elongated, like messed up, versus the Namekians. It wasn't that elongated. It to me, I felt like it wasn't that elongated. They were just caught up in a situation between two rivaling people or rivaling teams that was going on, which well three rivaling teams in the sense if you count the fact that Vegeta wasn't fully resolved, he was somewhat resolved of becoming more good and becoming more into the Z fighters, integrating into the Z fighters, but it still took him time a little bit to get Vegeta's respect to become a Z fighter and become, into getting in the family of the Dragon Ball Z family and stuff. It still took him time around that time, and Krillin and everybody else saw Vegeta still as a visible, like, threat, just as much as the Frieza Force and Frieza as a threat. They saw Vegeta as a threat or someone that can really just mess them up one way or the other. Because let's just be real, even though everybody ganged up on Vegeta when that it was that Saiyan saga on Earth, it's still a fact of they just weakened him or everyone just had their shots and that's it. It was a narrow win for the Earthlings. Goku was the only one who could literally go toe to toe with Vegeta and have more potential. Which again, it goes hand in hand with what I was talking about before in part one of the Mechians are more Native American versus black because of the fact of Goku at base strength, at freaking base strength. Even despite the fact of Goku had to team up with Piccolo to fight off Raditz at base strength, he still had more potential to stand his ground or fight someone of that high caliber as Vegeta because even though Vegeta was like base strength Saiyan, it's still the fact that he was no joke. He was just the same or similar as Goku. He was no joke. He was the prince of all Saiyans. And on top of that, around that time, you can strongly say, yeah, he was a damn prince of all Saiyans because he knew even without a moon, he can still go great ape form by just transmuting like a simple ki blast into some type of moon manifestation up in the air or in like Earth's atmosphere, and he can turn like great ape right there and then. And that right there is what tells you Vegeta is no joke. Whether it's his like fighting tactics or the way he fights as a fighter in his fighting skills, he was not no joke. Maybe in Super and other extended like franchise of Dragon Ball, there may be some things where it's his fighting stance or fighting um, tacticians or methods are kind of flawed. But back then, no, he was no freaking joke. Mm-mm. Yeah, he was a badass. He was a pure badass and either vaporize your ass or whoop your ass right there and then. But yeah. Long story short, Goku as a Saiyan, whether it be Earthling Saiyan or full fledged Saiyan, he still had more potential to whoop Vegeta's ass versus everybody else. Hell, even in the Saiyan arc, everybody's like, look, let's just calm down. Let's wait until Goku comes through. That gives you more clarification of what I'm saying about Saiyans being more black than the Mexicans. But let me not get into part one again. I want to talk about the fishmen, the comparison with fishmen and the Mexicans. Now, my thing with the fishmen, I'm going to start with the storytelling and their past. Fishman race slash merman or mer people. I'm just going to call them mer people and fishermen. You're going to hear that a lot through this video because actually that's a funny thing right there too. If I had to point out something, um, just like us black people, when we had to go through history, I want to say this respectfully as possible, as we had to go through history of different names or entitlements to our like race or nationality. That's the same thing with fishermen, whether it be Funimation or it whether it be for kids or whether it be just full Funimation of it for just being adult content. And let me explain how. For 1 second. Okay, I'm back. I just had some few small minor technical difficulties. Sorry for the wait. But yeah, back to my argument though. It's just fishermen people slash mer people. They went through a whole like um, title categorization of their race slash nationality for a long ass period of time. Just as similar as us black people. Whether you take it from 4Kids to Funimation itself with adult content. And when I mean by adult content, I don't mean like anything messed up or whatever. I mean adult like content when you have either a little bit of cursing or you just have way more like bloody fights or just more like fights that's just less censored or whatever. 4Kids, that's what 4Kids thing was. 4Kids thing was just censorship, but that's a whole nother video or a whole nother topic right there. But yeah, like, and here's all the terms when it comes to fish people. There are fish. There's fishmen, merfolk, or merman, and then if you think about it, it's the same thing as us as black people. We had nigga, and I'm saying this respectively. I only say, shit, I'm black too anyway, so it is what it is. But still, yeah, like we were called nigga. Let's see, Negro to black people, and then the last one would be African American. Those would be our four terms when it comes to evolution or whatever. Now, I know what we were called back in very ground terms when god dang pilgrims were being fucked up back then. But that's just, yeah, I already said my statements back in part one when talking about the Saiyan race versus the Mexican race. Saiyans being more black than the Mexicans. But that's a whole nother thing back in part one. If you want to know what I mean by ground based statements, focus on my statements about Frieza saying certain things about the Saiyan race, about part one of my whole argument of the Mexicans being Native American than being black in part one of these videos that I'm making. But okay, back to like the whole controversy with that. That's one controversial thing when it comes to mer people slash fishermen. When it comes to like the Namekian race. Namekians, they were either called Nameks or a Namek or basically Namekians. But I don't even feel like that's much of a derogatory term because that's just the same thing. That's the same similar basis that you would call a Native American. Those two things, either Native American or plain Indian. That's it. Point blank simple, that's it. There was no 3 or 4 or 5 things or evolutionary process. You have those two things. That's it. I'm sorry it sounds messed up, but That's all you have. Now, getting deeper into it, Fishman also has this have this thing when it came to their past history and ancestry slash like time in One Piece. Their thing back in their history versus the Namekians of just having one event or some events that happen here and there. It's just the fact of Fishmen slash merfolk, and I'll explain why I keep on saying fishmen slash merfolk after this statement, most likely. But fishmen slash merfolk, it works like this. Basically, their historical ancestry, they were done wrong by humans. Long story short, they were done wrong by humans many ways than one. Whether it be in the highest anarchy of humans, of like the highest class versus the low class scum niggas that respectively, I'm just going to say low class scum niggas that just basically came in and did them wrong and abused them and just did whatever they want with certain merfolk or fish people, because this is how everything worked. And if anything, you can even say strongly, this is why my argument about fish people being more black than Namics become even stronger here too. There were some scummy pirates back in the day when Fishman and that's another thing I might have to bring up too in this video a little bit too about the historical events about Fishman Island. But I'll get into that later in this video. That pirates back in the day, when there were some pirates that knew where Fishman Island were, and I would like to say they were that competent enough to have what's the word? I'm trying to remember that substance, but basically when they had like someone code their ship with bubble coating, and the only reason why I said bubble coating is because there is this thing called bubble. Long story short, Fishman Island is leagues under the sea, like on the sea, basically the sea floor of the sea. In order for you to get to Fishman Island, it's on the sea floor of the sea. So technically, you're going to need like sea sea bubbling coating for you to get down there in the leagues of the sea, because you're talking about like leagues and heavy ass pressure of water pressure down leagues under the sea on the sea floor. So you're going to need something to hold up the ship and also like keep it at bay, keep all water pressure at bay from crushing the ship or the crew. So that's where sea coating slash sea bubbly substance come in. It acts as a what's the word? A defensive mechanism to keep the ship from either getting crushed by water pressure or just any messed up stuff that goes on under the sea floor of the sea. Because again, that's leagues under the sea and the sea floor. You don't know what's going to happen. That's like the same similar thing when the Straw Hats try to go to Skypiea. Skypiea, they didn't know what the hell was going on. That was a legendary island up in the sky. And the only way that you could get there is either by taking a water geyser at this certain island that the Straw Hats was at when they heard of Skypiea. But that was a 50-50 trip. You're going to have to fix your ship up that way, in a way to be aerodynamic to get up there and ride on the sea geyser. Or there are other alternative routes where I guess there's these hypotheses, or I guess what's the word? This theory where there are other ways to get up there because, well, you have either some, in theory, you do have routes that come from Skypiea that could lead to certain other areas of Skyland or Skypiea itself. Because there's like 6 or 7 islands divided. Think of Hawaii. That's what Skypiea is. It's spread out with 6 or 7 islands up in the sky, and you have different ways to get up there. That's pretty much similar with Fishman Island. Long story short, since it's like the sea floor to sea, you're going to have to find a way to get there, which is sea cold bubbling. That's it. You can't go down there without that unless you want to get crushed by water pressure. But aside from that, let's get deeper into more about the Fishman Black history of everything. May I dare say? If I had to talk about more about it, it's just the fact that yeah, pirates. Long story short, they pillaged Fishman Island and they took mainly the mermaid. They took they basically, long story short, I'm just going to say this just to be safe. They took fishermen and mer people or merfolk from the island. Now, the only reason why I'm saying this is because I'm saying these statements is because of these reasons. One, and even I said this in social media a few times before, fishmen or fish people, they are either used for like physical hard labor as slaves because in a sense some fucked up humans, they see them as able-bodied, as Lord have mercy, as basically when I was a part of this one purchased his like racist history class, they were able-bodied individuals that look different, and they are kind of seen as subhuman or subspecies only because the way they look. Because fish people, they are blue skinned, or mainly they have blue skin. I don't know. Arguably, they may have uh, have scales just like normal fish, or they just have blue skin in general. I don't know. It's animation. They never, and Oda never got deep into this type of stuff when it comes to the fish people. Physical characteristics. The only thing that you can see visibly what their characteristics is, they have webbed hands and they have gills in different areas, whether it be their neck or sometimes around their face area, like around their cheeks. It's different ways. Now, uh, now, my bad. That was my Siri. Now, another thing that I like to talk about when it comes to the fish people is, yeah, they were seen to, just basically able individuals to work as slaves, and that's what fish people are. They they were seen as slaves for one thing, and then pirates took them, and then on top of that, there are some merfolk. Now the merfolk, and I swear after this statement, that's when I'll tell you the differences between fish people and merfolk. The merfolk, I would like to say they're either been seen as either slaves or they were seen more as just goods to be sold off. Because just like how on a book's cover with, like pirate tales or just pirate seas, or either just in real life, mermaids being mythological and just being extraordinary like creatures and fascinating. That's what mermaids or merfolk are in a sense. They they can be seen either as goods to be sold off as the highest bidder for being so rare and majestic, or they could be sometimes seen and to put into labor and stuff and hard labor, depending on what merfolk you're abducting, whether it be a male person of a merfolk or it be a female person or a full mermaid, basically. Actually, there's even like categorization between in the merfolk category as well, which is mermen, literally mermen and mer women, because or mermaids, because yeah, mermaids are more female and mermen are more male. Now, this is where my cue is to talk about the whole like entitlement of different species of fish people and merfolk. Merfolk, it's in the name and in implement of the name. Merfolk, they have mainly just fish tails or just tails in general for legs. So just like a traditional mermaid or merman, they can't like walk per se. They can only swim or move around in some ways. In One Piece world, they it's hard to say when it comes to One Piece world. Either they can either move around with just a sheer strength of just moving around, or they're going to sometimes need to have like those floaty bubble things to go around their waist, whether it be merman or merwoman, to help them move around and become mobile. Because again, you have a tail, so again, it's very arguable. Now, the only reason why I said pure strength is because you have people like Aladdin, which is literally Aladdin from like Jinbei's crew slash Fisher Tiger's crew. He's basically a merman because he has a tail and he I had never seen him on land use a bubble like a bubble reserve joint around his waist. Maybe I have to rewatch some episodes or reread some of the manga chapters where he's in it on land, but I don't think I've ever seen Aladdin use that for real, for real. The only person I've seen use a bubble floaty or a preserver on land would be Cammy. And Cammy, again, Cammy is a good example of basically her being black as a mermaid slash mer person, and she was done wrong because here's another fucked up thing. Besides, scummy pirates abducting fish people, it's also the fact that Cammy is a good example of certain humans in certain branches being fucked up with mer people because she was put on slavery option or basically slavery option basically um at this one place called Sandbody, and her price on her head was pretty high because again she's a mermaid, so they can be very valuable in the world of One Piece. And this one celestial dragon, which I call Republicans, and that's that's my punchline when it comes to what I said before in the beginning of this video, the high class people of like humans, where it's like you have celestial dragons or the Juriopito. Um, Celestial dragons, they're more like the Republicans only because they have a whole lot of money and they are very high class. And then on top of that, there's so much money in high class. Long story short, they wear like these air raid suits or these astronaut looking suits. So they won't, because they have a belief of when they go to like certain common islands or any other common island in general from theirs, they believe that they don't want to breathe filthy human, like everyday common folk like air or oxygen. So that's why they have like these air raid looking astronaut suits because they have a belief of they don't want to breathe the same air as low low level people or low branch people like middle class, lower class. It goes on. Yeah, basically that's what the celestial dragons are. They're pure Republicans, silver spoon or gold spoon and all. And Cammy was almost getting sold off to a celestial dragon at Sandbody, and that's again why I say that merfolk and fishmen are always, known as black to me because Cammy was literally about to get sold off by a Republican, basically, at at this one place called Sandbody in One Piece. And that's my argument about the whole thing. And then on top of that, if I had to point something else out, it's just how should I say this? I'm trying to think about it. I'm sorry. Sorry, I just need to breathe for a second because it gets me pissed off about this stuff. Another thing that I like to say about this topic, it'll be just the fact that yeah, more I would like to get more detail about like the name entitlement. So I went over the mer people, what are the subdivisions of mer people and why some people can call them mer folk or mer people in general. Now fishermen, let's get into fishermen. Fishermen are more in a literal sense able-bodied individuals or people or just the next, how should I say this? They are the next version of of just basically fish people who can be seen arguably as human to a degree. The only reason why I say that is because let me explain. Merfolk, they're more mythological and they're more seen as something that's very unique and very high and very, high class and whatever and different. Versus fishermen, they can be seen arguably as an everyday man, everyday person. The only thing about fishermen is it's just literally they have webbed hands and webbed feet. And on top of that, they 50-50 either have like sharp teeth. Well, you know what? No, I'll take out the sharp teeth part because you know what? That's another damn thing that I had to point that out too, especially if I had to talk about Reverie. At the Reverie, there was this one Negro, this one Celestial Dragon Republican Negro, or I wouldn't say Celestial Dragon, but he's pretty damn close to being one. The way his pop his ass act. Um, there was this one dude back in Luffy's hometown. He said some racist, messed up stuff about the fish people, and he heard some things about them, and he thought that they were real. Now, the only reason why I say he's pretty close to a celestial dragon is he's not necessarily a celestial dragon, but he's more of a royal. Now, the only reason why I say he's a royal is because, again, if you think about medieval times, there are different people, there are different people or different ranks of people when it comes to like high rank or high branch, like living expenses. Now, the only reason why I'm going to call him royal is because technically I wouldn't be wrong for calling him that because in the world of One Piece, technically there is a big ass difference between a royal versus celestial dragon. A celestial dragon, they have literally their one damn island that's called heaven in a sense, and on top of that, they act like they're way different because of their immense wealth and their immense like branch of hierarchy in the One Piece world. Versus a royal is the same, is basically similar to a celestial dragon, but only on ground, on like a ground base level everyday life situation. I'll give you a better detailed answer for what I mean by this. Celestial dragons literally is like heaven with their island. Let's just say that we're going to call Celestial Dragon Island heaven. And with royals, that's everyday life. You're an everyday commoner or everyday Joe person, whether you're a low class, middle class, or someone that's in the high class tier, but you're more the reason why you're in the high class tier is because of the fact that you're just a royal as an everyday commoner. So you could be a king or a queen and have your own nation, but you can never be per se arguably up there as a Juriopito or a celestial dragon, only because celestial dragon are pure conservatives slash purely Republican because of their immense like wealth and advantages and stuff. Let me tell you how much power they have. Now, a royal and a king or a queen, they can have their grounds to like submit like their dislike of something or they disagree with something of what's going on certain things. Like for example, like the Seven Warlord um, Yeah, the Seven Warlord comp. Now that's a thing. Seven Warlord system being shut down, that is a thing. Royals like from Dressrosa or Alabasta, they still to this day have arguments over saying like, no, this needs to be shut down because by the end of the day, Seven Warlords, we've been fucked over by these people. Um, Celestial Dragons, that's a whole different thing. Arguably, they can get something done faster than a royal can because a royal they have to go through the process. Even though they're a royal, they can have the grounds to say what they want to say or disagree with whatever the government's doing. They still have to go through a certain process or go through certain channels to do X, Y, and Z. Versus Jerry Pito, they're pure Republican. If they want something done, the Celestial Dragons have nothing to say or nothing to do but had to execute whatever objective they need to get answered to what the Jurapito want. A good example would be Dressrosa with Dofi, aka Doflamingo, saying about stepping down of being a warlord. He had the government fake news or the CP0, aka the like the Black Ops part of the government, CP0 fake him stepping down of being a warlord before the warlord system got shut down. And it was all fake news to all Dressrosa. And yeah, mainly just all Dressrosa. It was just fake news because he was still one of the seven warlords. And you know how he did this? It was because of his background. His background, he was first a celestial dragon before he became a warlord, aka one of the seven pirates of the yeah, one of the known seven pirates in general of the seas. Basically, that's what the warlord system is. Seven strongest pirates of the seas. He he was before he was known for being that. He was also a Jeriopito, and that's how he could manipulate the government for doing what he wanted to do because that fast. Because his background record or government papers says that well technically he was a celestial dragon, so he has a little bit reign of doing whatever he wants in a sense. That and he also a warlord, so that also like rectifies anything that the government may say like, well, you're not a Jerry Pito anymore, or you're just a common pirate that works under our system. He has two strikes against him, or it's true two like resources with him that he can manipulate and use, so he can manipulate and use like the government wherever he wants to do. Like he can tell them whatever he want them to do, and they'll just do it right there and then. They can't do nothing about it. Versus a royal, they just can't do shit. They have to go through channels and whatever. But yeah. If I had to say anything, lastly, any last statements or last claims about fishmen being black, it would be just yeah, fishermen they were done wrong for years. I mean, they were been put into slavery. They've been put more into slavery than merfolk, arguably. Whether it be mer women or mermen, they were more just sold out by goods, most likely because again they were more legendary and they they were more looked at as mythological. So their price on their heads went higher than a fisherman. A fisherman, their heads were pretty damn high only because for slavery uses, and that was the most fucked up thing that you can do. Now, another last statement I also wanted to say would be just fish people at base. How should I say this? At base knowledge, fish people when it comes to like just base strength and power they are known to be 10 times stronger than the everyday person or human being. That should tell you something else as well too. Us black people, we're known to be like just way more stronger than everyday person or certain people of this world or around this country in general as well too. We're known as very strong and very formidable when it comes to our physical attributes. So that has to tell you that again, fishmen and mer folk are just the same, or basically just 100% black people versus Namekians. They're just freaking Native Americans. I'm sorry, but they're just freaking Native Americans because you're pretty strong, but you're not that highly that strong, whether it be how should I say it, whether it be like base strength or whether it be like in potential. You're just not that damn strong. I'm sorry, but you have some type of limitations versus Saiyans or fishmen or merfolk. Arguably, they probably don't have that much limitations, only because they have different. Besides being 10 times stronger than anybody else, let me tell you something else about the fish people. Just so they could be similar playing as a Saiyan when it comes to base fighting or way more than base fighting. They have this fighting style called Fishman Karate. Fishman Karate is not just them saying Fishman Karate just to say Fishman Karate. It's basically a fighting style where just as much as normal karate or ninjutsu or jutsu in general, of like different types of fighting in general, it teaches just like how in karate or jujitsu they teach you how to use your opponent's weight against, yeah, you use your opponent's weight against them and force against them, whether it be a heavy fighter or a strong, broad heavy fighter, and you use the force against them and their weight against them. It's the same thing with Fishman Karate. The only difference is just Fishman Karate. Basically, when they hit, when a fishman hits you, or any, whether it be a human or a fishman, when learning these techniques, Fishman Karate allows you to manipulate your opponent's like water, whatever water that's inside of your opponent. And let's be honest here, people. Every human being in scientific fact of biology, every person or every living being is about 70% water, made out of 70% water inside of their body. That will fuck you up basically if you learn about Fishman Karate. Whether you be a devil fruit user in One Piece or whether you be a normal person in real life, that will mess you up. And you learning something that strong, that's like the same thing as black people with their strength being formidable and will fuck you up. I'm sorry, but yeah, it's just how it is. That's like the same thing with the Saiyans. When they learn that they could go Super Saiyan, that's the same thing. If you know more, not only plain water manipulation, but also manipulation of your enemies or your opponents, like physical attributes when fighting them, man, you'll mess somebody up, especially when you're 10 times stronger than them at base strength. You pure black. I'm sorry, but fish people are pure black versus the Namekian race. It takes them more time to get stronger. They have limitations, and on top of that, when besides limitations and stuff, hypothetically, for them to get stronger faster, they have to meld and like become one with each other. They had to keep fusing and melt one with each other until they either pick the most strongest Namekians to have all that power to bear, or something else. And it's like, no, fam, I'm sorry, but sit your ass down. No, you can be Native American level, I'll give you that, but you can't be black. I'm sorry, but no, that is. I'm sorry to be this long for 40 minutes, but it just had to be done. And this concludes my video about fishmen and the Meckians. Now, I'll most likely, since this is Black History Month, and I'm not just doing it just because, but I like to do it because I like the subject or topic a little bit. I want to point out like individuals of the fisherman race, of who were, how to say this, who were noteworthy to say of their roles, whether it be Jinbei, Fisher, Tiger. The list goes on. It's between like 4 or 5 people that are the most, like, how should I say this? They're the most iconic. 4 or 5 or 6 people that are most iconic in the fisherman race to show what their stance or what the fisherman race stance should be. whether it be a negative force or whether it be a positive force, or an in between of, or a black and white or gray area of a negative force combination with a positive force, just to make ends meet and just make moves. But that's it for my video. Please leave a like. Please subscribe if you want. Thank you. Bye.